hinterland education development, technical and vocational training, literacy enhancement. Education is on the move. On Education Spotlight, we look at developments within the education sector and how Guyanese can take advantage of the opportunities available. Hello and welcome to another edition of Education Spotlight. Now last week we started the conversation on TVET, and this week we will be continuing it. With me is Education Officer 1 in the TVET unit, Ms. Marilyn Davis, and she will be telling us a little bit more about the SEC program. Hi Ms. Davis, thank you for joining us today.
Hello, good afternoon.
Okay, first let's just dive right into it and tell us what is the SEC program.
Great, thank you for having me. The SCCP, it's an acronym for the Secondary Competency Certificate Program. This is a competency-based program done at the grade 9 and 10 level.
Now let's talk about what does this program entail?
Okay, the components of the SCCP, the student is required to do 4 core subjects, what we refer to as core subjects: the math, the language, general studies, and integrated science. Recently, we've added business as a core, given the factors what's happening in our country and business and entrepreneurial skills becoming very important. We've added that as a core. Now, along with the core subjects, each student is expected to do 1 elective, which is a TVET subject. So for these TVET subjects, they're in the 4 categories. You have home economics, industrial technology, agricultural science, and visual arts.
Okay. How can students is there like a curriculum, not really a curriculum, but do they have to qualify to do this program?
No, there is no qualifying criteria for the SCCP. Now, it's done at some schools. Now, from this academic year, it will be done at all C and list C and D schools. So from grade 7 and 8, they will do the curriculum following the SEP, which is another program that the ministry is introducing. And when they've completed that at grade 8, they move right into the SCCP from grade 9. On completion of grade 9, you are certified, all right? And then they move on to grade 10, and they're also certified at grade 10. On completion of that SCCP now, the candidates can now move on into CSEC. Because the objective of SCCP is not to prevent students from writing CSEC, but it is to give them certification, additional certification. Because what we found that many of the C and D school students leave at a certain grade, most times 9 and 10. So we don't want to put citizens out into the country without a secondary certification. So SCCP is kind of filling that gap.
So with that certification, and say a student leaves school in grade 9 or grade 10, what would be the career path for them if they do decide to pursue something?
Great question. So the SCCP certificate can give them entrance into the post-secondary technical institutes. For example, GTI, GITC, that's in Georgetown. And then in outer skirts of Guyana, we have the LTI in Linden, ETI in Essequibo, NATI, Berbice, and so on. So they can use that pathway. Or they can seek employment or even start their own business, because SCCP is basically about teaching job-ready skills. So a child covering those 2 years can actually start their own little, business for themselves.
How long have we been doing this program?
SCCP started back in 2009, actually. And as I said, it started at selected schools, and now we are expanding to all the C and D schools.
Okay, and can you tell us what has been the statistics, success rates since 2009 to now 2022?
I will say average to satisfactory, which we are not comfortable with at the TVET unit. And we are trying to, what we would say, refashion SCCP so it can be more interesting, because many teachers, parents, and students, they have this negative perception of SCCP, and we're trying desperately to change that. Hence, we've included the business Because, people leave with the idea that, okay, doing SCCP, you could only do 5 subjects or 6 subjects, and they want the children, the whole thing about doing lots of subjects. So they run away from doing it. And the completion rate is not the best. But we're getting there. And as I said, we've refashioned SCCP to increase that completion rate.
I know you would have mentioned that we've included business
Yes.
as part of the refashioning, but can you give us a little bit more details on what that refashioning has looked like to date?
To date, we've only started, actually that will start this academic year. So we cannot give any statistics in regards to that. Next year, return and we can give you that.
In this academic year?
What we can expect in this academic year is more schools doing SCCP, along with the business integration and the TVET subject as elective, and more students selecting all the electives at the schools. What we also reduced is schools separating students into SCCP and CSEC classes. So all students at these schools will be doing SCCP.
And would we have officers going and do routine checks at these schools to
Yes.
ensure that things are going according to plan?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Great question too. Our officers, the unit has benefited from increased numbers of officers, as well as we're aligning with the METS unit to monitor the implementation and execution of the SCCP program.
What is the METS unit?
The METS unit is the monitoring unit of the Ministry of Education.
Just for clarification.
Yes,
for
the
everybody
monitoring
else.
unit, inspectorate team, they monitor all that goes on in our schools, records-wise, delivery of program, teacher attendance, everything around that.
I know you mentioned refashioning, and before I go, I need to ask, are we looking ahead to expand it? You said it's list C and D schools, but are we looking to expand it to probably B schools or?
Not the SCCP. We wouldn't expand the SCCP to those schools because we are introducing CVQ also, which is the Caribbean Vocational Qualification. And that will, because of the nature of CVQ, with schools having to be standardized and so on to carry that program, most of the list A and B schools, along with some C and D schools, right, will carry the CVQ, which is similar to SCCP in the sense that it is competency-based methodology, right? And each program, the students can complete each program and be certified for each program.
Okay, so before we wrap up, I just want you to explain a little bit more about the competency-based aspect of it. Does this mean that students will be doing more practical assessments?
Yes, that's an excellent question. Competency-based means that students must have the right knowledge, the attitude, and they must be proficient in the skills area. So you cannot say, okay, I'm competent, I just know something. You must know it and know to do it and do it in the right way. So that encompasses what competency means. And with that, with the competency-based utilizing lots of practicals, the unit is extending its arm in providing more tools and equipment for our schools.
Thank you so much for that, Ms. Davis, and so thank you so much for your time today.
Great.
This has been another episode of Education Spotlight. Thank you for watching, and remember to join us again next week for another edition.